You never forget the moment you hear someone say you'll never belong, especially when they believe you're too ignorant to understand. I kept quiet for months, biting back every word, every truth, while they gossiped about me as if I were invisible. Stay with me until the end, because the night I finally opened my mouth, their faces told me everything I needed to know. My name is Amira Hassan, I'm 27 years old, and for the past 6 months, I've been married to Daniel, the man I thought was my safe place, my home. When I met him 3 years ago, I didn't imagine my story would unfold this way. Daniel was kind, thoughtful, and he made me laugh during a time when my world felt heavy. He proposed under a canopy of fairy lights on a cold December evening, promising that his family would love me as much as he did. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. But from the very first dinner at his parents' home, I realized something he didn't. I wasn't marrying just him. I was marrying into them. Daniel's family is from Lebanon. His parents, Mahmoud and Layla, moved here years ago, and while Daniel is as Western as any man you'd meet, his parents never let go of their traditions, their language, or their expectations. Especially his mother. The first time I stepped into their home, Layla's eyes scanned me the way a jeweler inspects a stone, searching for flaws. She smiled politely, but it never reached her eyes. And when she turned to Daniel's sister, they exchanged a glance that stung more than words. That night, they spoke freely in Arabic at the dinner table, assuming I didn't understand a word. Daniel tried to translate here and there, but most of the time he was caught up in conversations with his father about work, finances, or football. I just sat there quietly, smiling when it seemed appropriate, nodding when Layla looked my way. But behind those polite nods, my mind was racing, because I understood every single word they said. They didn't know that my father, a professor of Middle Eastern studies, had taught me Arabic since childhood. My fluency wasn't perfect, but it was strong enough to follow every whisper, every laugh, every sly comment. And that night, I learned exactly how they felt about me. "She's pretty," Layla said, slicing lamb with her sharp knife. "But she's not one of us. She doesn't have our blood. She won't raise the children right." Her daughter snorted softly. Daniel could have done better. "She doesn't even speak the language." The words burned like acid. I wanted to speak up, to defend myself, to prove them wrong right then and there. But something inside me, a quiet, deliberate part of me, whispered, "Not yet. Let them think you don't know. Let them keep talking." So I stayed silent. For weeks. Then months. Through birthdays, family gatherings, dinners filled with pointed laughter and careless remarks. Each time, my chest tightened, but I swallowed my pride and let the silence do its work. They believed they were safe, that I was clueless, that their words were harmless. But I remembered them all. Every single one. And on one particular evening, as I set my fork down and looked at Layla across the table, I realized I couldn't hold it in any longer. Next time she opened her mouth, I would answer her. In her own language. For a moment, the entire dining room went still. The clink of silverware against porcelain froze midair. Daniel's sister's laughter cut short, her fork hovering above her plate. Even the hum of the ceiling fan seemed louder than the silence that followed my words. I hadn't shouted. I hadn't snapped. My voice had been calm, almost gentle, but spoken in fluent Arabic. Word for word, I repeated Layla's sentence back to her. "She'll never be one of us, Daniel. You'll see." Only this time, it came from my lips. Layla's face drained of color. Her knife slipped against the edge of her plate with a screech. She blinked once, twice, as if her ears had deceived her. Then her eyes flicked toward Daniel, searching his face for an explanation. Daniel frowned, confused. What just happened?" I leaned forward, placing my palms against the table, steady as stone. My gaze locked onto Layla's. "I understood everything you've said about me. Every dinner. Every gathering. Every insult. And I stayed silent because I wanted to see how far you'd go." Her daughter's mouth dropped open. You speak Arabic?" she stammered, her accent suddenly sounding clumsy in comparison. I gave her the faintest smile. "Better than you think." Daniel turned to me, shock flickering across his features. "Amira, you never told me? I wanted to see if your family would accept me for who I am," I said softly, without knowing I could understand them. I wanted to believe that kindness was possible without conditions. Layla's lips trembled. Anger and humiliation battled in her eyes. She looked like a queen stripped of her crown, her authority collapsing with every word I spoke. How dare you deceive us?" she finally hissed, her voice trembling. I tilted my head. "Deceive you? I sat here, meal after meal, listening while you deceived yourselves into thinking I was blind, deaf, and unworthy. Tell me, Layla, who really did the deceiving? Her fork clattered to her plate. Mahmoud, Daniel's father, shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his gaze darting between us. For the first time, he didn't defend her. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. I had imagined this moment for months, dreamed of their stunned faces, of the weight lifting from my chest when I finally spoke. But I hadn't expected the tears that pricked my eyes or the ache in my throat when I saw Daniel's face. He wasn't angry. He wasn't defensive. He was hurt. Hurt that I hadn't told him. Hurt that his family had betrayed me in whispers he hadn't noticed. Amira, he said slowly, how long? I took a deep breath. Since the very beginning. And just like that, the crack between us widened. Daniel pushed back his chair, his expression unreadable. I need to know exactly what they said about you, he whispered. And this time, Amira, don't leave a single word out. Daniel's words hung in the air like a blade. I need to know exactly what they said about you. The others shifted uncomfortably, but I didn't take my eyes off him. His face was tight, his jaw clenched, but beneath the anger was something else, a fracture of guilt. Maybe he was realizing just how blind he had been. Are you sure you want to hear it, Daniel? I asked quietly. Because once I speak it out loud, you can't pretend anymore. You can't unhear it. He nodded once, sharp, decisive. Tell me. So I did. I told him about the first night, when his mother praised my smile to my face but told his sister in Arabic that I was too simple to raise strong children. I told him about the birthday dinner, when they laughed behind my back, saying I would never understand their jokes, their traditions, their way of life, because women like me were outsiders. I told him about the night I wore my green dress, the one he said made me look radiant, and how his sister leaned across the table to whisper, "She looks cheap, trying too hard." Daniel deserves elegance, not desperation. Each word was a stone, laid one after another, until the table between us felt like a wall built of insults and betrayal. Daniel's hands curled into fists against the tablecloth. His knuckles whitened. "You're lying," his sister blurted, her voice shrill. "She's twisting it." I cut her off, my voice sharp but steady, repeating her insult in Arabic, syllable for syllable, exactly the way she had said it months ago. The tone, the rhythm, the sneer in her voice. Her face went red. She sank back in her chair, suddenly small, suddenly exposed. Daniel's father cleared his throat, but his eyes remained lowered. He didn't defend them. Not this time. Finally, I leaned back, exhausted but unflinching. "Do you see now, Daniel? Do you see what I've been carrying while you told me to give them time? While you said they'd come around?" His eyes met mine, and for a second I thought I saw tears there. His lips parted, but no words came out. Then, slowly, he turned his gaze to his mother. "Did you say these things, Mama?" His voice cracked on the word. "Tell me." Layla lifted her chin, regal even in disgrace. "We only wanted the best for you," she said coldly. "We didn't mean harm. We were protecting you." "Protecting me?" Daniel's voice rose, sharp with fury. "By tearing down my wife? By humiliating the woman I love?" The room trembled with the weight of his anger. His mother's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't answer. For the first time since I had married into this family, I saw Daniel's loyalty shifting, away from them and toward me. But with that shift came a storm I wasn't sure either of us was ready for. Daniel stood, his chair scraping violently against the floor. "If you can say this to her face, Mama," he said, his voice shaking, "then you can say it in front of me, every single word. Right now." Layla's hand trembled as she set down her glass. For a long moment she said nothing, her lips pressed into a hard line. The silence stretched, suffocating, until Daniel's voice cut through it like a blade. "Say it, Mama. Don't hide behind polite smiles anymore. Tell me what you think of my wife. Tell me what you've been saying behind her back." Her chin lifted, her pride refusing to bend, even now. "Fine," she said, her words clipped. "You want honesty? She is not one of us. She never will be. You may love her, Daniel, but love does not erase blood. It does not erase history." Her voice sharpened, every word deliberate. "She cannot give you what our family needs. She cannot carry on the traditions. She will raise children who do not know who they are." The words hit like daggers. My throat burned, but I refused to look away. I had promised myself that when this day came, I would not cower. Daniel's face twisted with disbelief. "Do you even hear yourself? She's educated, strong, fluent in your language, more than you ever gave her credit for. What more could you possibly want? Layla's eyes flicked toward me, sharp and cold. A wife who knows her place. A wife who doesn't try to prove she's better. And certainly not a wife who spies on her husband's family in secret. The accusation landed heavy in the air. I inhaled sharply. Spying? You insult me openly in a language I happen to know. And I'm the one in the wrong. Her daughter leaned in, venom lacing her words. Maybe you planned it all along. Pretending you didn't understand, just so you could play the victim later. Daniel's fist slammed against the table. Enough! His voice shook the room. You've humiliated her long enough. You've humiliated me. And for what? Because she's not the mirror image of you. For the first time, Layla's composure faltered. Her eyes flickered with something unguarded. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. You don't understand, she whispered. Then make me understand, Daniel snapped. Layla's gaze darted to her husband. Mahmoud stared at his plate, silent, refusing to intervene. That silence seemed to anger her more than anything else. Finally, she looked back at Daniel, her voice low but heavy. You think this is about her? About Amira? No. This is about you. About what you owe this family. About the promise you were supposed to keep. Daniel stiffened. What promise? The room seemed to tilt. Layla's lips parted, then pressed together again as if she'd revealed too much. My pulse quickened. Something deeper was buried beneath her disdain for me. Something Daniel clearly didn't know. He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. What promise, Mama? He repeated, slower this time, his voice dangerous in its calm. Layla swallowed hard. And for the first time, her mask truly cracked. Her words fell like a stone in the pit of my stomach. You were never meant to marry her, Daniel, Layla whispered. You were promised to someone else. Daniel froze, his jaw tightening as if his mother's words had slapped him. Promised? His voice dropped to a whisper. Promised to who? Layla exhaled shakily, her eyes darting toward her husband, who sat rigid, refusing to meet his son's gaze. It was decided years ago, before you even met Amira. You were meant to marry Layla, your cousin. It was agreed between our families. An alliance. A tradition. The room seemed to contract around me. My pulse hammered in my ears. Cousin. Alliance. Tradition. Her words clung to me like chains. Daniel pushed his chair back slowly, his face pale with disbelief. Mama, this is insane. I never agreed to this. I was never told. You didn't need to be told, Layla snapped, her voice regaining its steel. It was your duty. It was understood. Do you think family is about romance? About passion? No. It is about loyalty. Preservation. And you. Her finger jabbed toward me like an arrow. You ruined everything. The venom in her tone made my stomach twist, but I held my ground. Ruined everything? My voice shook, but I didn't look away. No, Layla. I simply didn't fit into the cage you built for him. Her daughter slammed her palm against the table. You don't understand how things work here. Daniel rounded on her, his voice cracking with fury. No, you don't understand. I'm not a bargaining chip. I'm not a contract to be signed between families. He turned to his mother, his voice breaking. How could you keep this from me? For the first time, I saw the certainty in Layla's eyes falter. Her power, so carefully held, began to slip. Still, she clung to it desperately. I kept it from you because I knew you'd resist. I knew you'd be selfish. But one day you would see that I was right. That family comes before everything else. Daniel's voice went quiet, almost trembling. And my happiness? Does that mean nothing? Silence. The weight of her refusal to answer was louder than any scream. I felt something stir in my chest, not just pain, but clarity. This had never been about me being good enough. It had been about control. About a choice that was stolen from him before it was even his to make. Daniel dragged a hand down his face, his shoulders heavy. All this time, all the whispers, all the hatred, it wasn't because of Amira. It was because of your deal. Layla's jaw clenched. She said nothing. He turned to me then, his eyes raw. Amira, his words caught. I don't even know what to say. I don't know how to fix this. For the first time, I saw the boy beneath the man. A son trapped between the love of his wife and the chains of his mother's expectations. And I realized this battle was only beginning. Daniel's cousin's name slipped from Layla's lips like a curse. She's already waiting, she said coldly. And she will never forgive you for choosing Amira instead. The name sat heavy in the air, Layla. Daniel's cousin. The woman his mother had chosen years before I ever came into the picture. My stomach clenched, but before I could speak, Layla's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it, then smirked. She's already outside. Daniel's eyes widened. What? The doorbell rang before he could protest. I felt the world tilt under me as Layla rose gracefully, as though she had orchestrated this scene for months. She opened the door, and in stepped Layla. She was beautiful in a way that made the room shrink, tall, poised, draped in silk that shimmered under the chandelier. Every inch of her radiated confidence, like she belonged here more than I ever could. And the way her eyes fell on Daniel told me she knew it. Daniel, she breathed, her smile warm, familiar. Too familiar. It's been too long. He stiffened. Layla, what are you doing here? She ignored his question, gliding into the dining room like she'd never been a stranger. Her eyes swept over the table, then landed on me. A pause. Her smile didn't falter, but her gaze sharpened, appraising. So, she said softly, this is the woman. Her tone made the word woman feel like an insult. I straightened in my chair. Yes, I'm his wife. Something flickered in her eyes, surprise, then amusement. Wife, she repeated slowly, as though tasting the word. She looked back at Daniel. They didn't tell me you had already settled down. Daniel's jaw tightened. It wasn't your business to know. Layla's smile curved, but it didn't reach her eyes. Wasn't it? Considering the years of planning? The talks? The expectations? I felt my heart pound harder with every word. This wasn't just Layla's fantasy. Layla had known about it. She'd been waiting. I didn't agree to any of it, Daniel said firmly. I never wanted it. Layla's gaze flicked toward his mother, then back to him, a shadow of hurt breaking through her composure. Maybe not, but you can't erase what was promised. What should have been. Layla placed a hand on Layla's arm, her voice tender in a way she had never been with me. You were always meant for him, and you would have been perfect. The words cut deeper than any insult had. Daniel stood abruptly. Stop it. Both of you. I made my choice. I love Amira. Nothing changes that. But even as he spoke, I could feel the storm gathering. Layla wasn't just a ghost of a plan. She was flesh and blood, standing in front of me, with his family behind her. And she wasn't leaving quietly. Layla's eyes locked on mine, her voice soft but laced with steel. You may be his wife now, she said, but you'll never win this family. And I don't lose, Amira. Not to anyone. The room pulsed with silence, broken only by the tick of the clock on the wall. Layla's words still hung in the air, poisonous and heavy. I looked at her flawless posture, her unwavering confidence, and for a fleeting second, I almost believed her. That I didn't stand a chance. That no matter how much Daniel loved me, I was fighting an entire legacy, an entire system, that wanted me erased. But then Daniel reached for my hand under the table. His grip was firm, steady, grounding. And in that moment, I knew I wasn't the one who should feel small. It was them. Enough, I said, my voice cutting cleanly through the air. Everyone's head turned. Layla blinked, as if surprised I dared to speak with such strength. I rose from my chair slowly, letting the silence stretch before I spoke again. For months, I listened to your whispers. I endured your insults. I stayed quiet because I thought silence was strength. I glanced at Layla. But silence only fed your cruelty. Her lips parted, but I didn't let her speak. You think I stole Daniel from you, Layla. You think I tricked him into loving me. But love is not a bargain. It's not a contract between families. It's a choice. And he chose me. Daniel stood then, his voice steady. And I'll choose her 1,000 times over. Every day. Every lifetime. The fire in Layla's eyes faltered, just for a moment. I turned back to Layla, meeting her gaze without flinching. You wanted me to be silent so you could erase me. But here's the truth. I am not going anywhere. I will build a home with your son, and I will not let your bitterness poison it. Her face hardened, but I pressed on, my voice steady and sharp. You told him family comes before everything else. But family doesn't destroy. Family doesn't manipulate. Family doesn't break their own son with lies. For the first time, Layla's eyes shimmered with something I never expected. Not victory, not hatred, but shame. Daniel exhaled slowly, his hand tightening around mine. If you can't accept my wife, Mama, then you can't have me either. The weight of his words landed like a thunderclap. His father's fork slipped from his hand, clattering against the plate. Layla's expression crumbled into disbelief. And Layla, proud, unshakable Layla, sat frozen, her eyes wide, her power finally shattered. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I simply turned, pulling Daniel gently toward the door. As we stepped out into the night air, I whispered the words that had been burning in my chest for months. I may not have been one of them, but I will always be enough for you. Daniel pressed his forehead against mine, his voice breaking. More than enough. Behind us, the house was silent. For the first time, they had nothing left to say. They wanted me invisible. Instead, I became unforgettable. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you.